welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. March is the original, and in my opinion, should be the only Washington wine month. They included August sometime, I don't know when. I think, one Washington wine month is enough. And March is the original one, so I get behind it big time. This month will be dedicated to Washington wines. I always try to do as many as possible, and I seem to fail, and wouldn't you know it, this month I'm going away for a week. So I'm going to try and shoot a couple so I have them in the queue ready to load up onto my channel. So we're going to start off with 2 episodes on red blends, because red blends are some of the hottest wines in the industry right now, in the store, in my department. They are huge. And I would say they're right up there with Cab, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris. Those are probably my top 4 on the domestic side. You get over to imports, it can go all over the place. Italian wines obviously are very strong, and I just did a couple of Italian wine episodes. Shout out to David. David, thank you for the comment. I really appreciate your support of my channel, and many of you who have subscribed recently, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to get started off right away with 3 red blends from Washington State. Washington State has come a long way in my career as a wine person. I mean, it's over 1,000 wineries now in Washington State. I can remember when you had a hard time finding a good Washington Chardonnay. Now there's tons of them. I can remember when Riesling was a dominant thing in Washington. Riesling is still big from Washington, but not nearly the dominant wine of Washington State. I can remember David Lake coming out with some great cabs. David Lake was one of the pioneers in Washington winemaking. Rob Griffin, a good friend of mine, a pioneer in Washington winemaking. He was an early Washington wine producer. You have Marty Clubb from Lake Hole, on and on and on. All these guys that have really been a big part of the Washington wine scene. So now there's some newcomers. There's people coming on strong. One of the ones that really impresses me, and we'll review a couple of her wines, is Mary Womack from Damsel Cellars. We will be reviewing a couple of her wines in the future this month. What an impressive person she is and what she's done. And she's self-taught, worked with a bunch of winemakers, and now is a really, really good winemaker. And that's, for a lot of these winemakers, that's the way they came onto the scene. They worked for somebody else who taught them how to make wine, and they became very talented winemakers. We're going to get started right off the bat with the City Limits Detour from Morgan Lee. He's the winemaker for 2 vintners, probably one of the best Zinfandels I've ever tasted from Washington State. And Washington State is not known for Zinfandel. There's a couple of them, of course, but not really not one of the major varietals coming out of Washington State. This is 2022 Detour, Columbia Valley, Washington. It's 85% Merlot, 10% Malbec, 5% Cabernet Sauvignon. And if you were to look at that, you say, well, that's kind of a right bank influenced wine. Right bank of Bordeaux, they do primarily Merlot on the right bank, primarily Cab on the left bank of the Gironde River. Yes, this rolls in at $18. So Morgan Lee, very talented winemaker. This is kind of a reddish, definitely reddish purple color on it. Kind of dark. Let's see what we get on the nose. Licorice all day. Licorice. A little bit of chocolate, a little bit of cherry notes. Some currants and plum coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Very old school, really old school actually. Kind of there's a minerality on the backside. There's definitely oak tannins coming through on the back end. This is not a fruit bomb. This is not a 80%er, as I like to say. 80%, meaning 80% of the people who buy this one are going to like it. but I kind of get the idea of what he's doing here. So you get that kind of interesting Malbec flavors coming through on this one. A little bit of greenness coming through. I get currants, cherries, plum notes, a little bit of licorice, but the fruit notes are very subdued. It's really an old school, old style wine, very old world in style. I'm sure that's what he was shooting for. I'm not sure everybody would like this wine if they bought it for $18, because most consumers that go to the shelf in the red blend section are looking for, well, what I would say more fruit-forward style wines. But for those of you who like Bordeaux, you're going to love this wine. And I think you have to understand what Morgan Lee is after here. Good balance, good structure. Interesting. You get the oak tannins on the back end and a little bit of minerality. Good balance. I'm gonna just go straight up B on this one. I think it's a well-made wine. I don't think you would have to be interested in a Bordeaux, true Bordeaux style wine from Washington State. So Morgan Lee has done a good job of doing that, emulating the old world Bordeaux style from Washington State, which is quite impressive. You get a little bit of that, I'm getting a little touch of tobacco, not a lot, just a little bit. Really quite a big hit of licorice on the mid palate. Yes, solid wine. I'm going to say this needs a ribeye, flank steak, needs some sort of a meat dish to really work with it. That would really work with this wine. It is definitely a food wine. I like the minerality. I like the balance. I just don't think everybody is going to like it. So unless, of course, you're looking for old world style wines from the New World, then knock yourself out. I'm going to go straight up B. I think it's well made, just not for everybody. 2022, that was a 22 as well. This is the Airfield Dauntless Red 2022 Yakima Valley, one of my favorite appellations. Yakima Valley, the first appellation in Washington State. The oldest appellation, I should say, in Washington State, Yakima Valley, AVA. This is 56 Merlot, 28 Cab Franc, 16 Cab. Again, right bank, predominantly Merlot. Airfield, huge fruit growers. These guys are big time. They used to sell quite a bit of fruit to Ste. Michelle. I'm not sure Chateau Ste. Michelle has really kicked back on their buying of fruit. They're really scaling back on a lot of labels. They've gotten rid of a lot of labels. And it was Chateau Ste. Michelle is a huge part of the Washington wine scene. They made a ton of wine, of course, but they also supported many of the wineries in Washington State. You could call somebody at Ste. Michelle and they'd help them. They're very supported. They wanted to see the Washington wine scene grow. They've changed hands several times. And now the owners have scaled back quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. But anyway, Dauntless Airfield Estates grows a ton of fruit. They produce quite a few different types of wine. Lone Birch is another label from Airfield. This rolls in at $16. Okay, color is really dark. I mean, we're talking into the dark zone here. Dark red, blackish tones. Yeah. Okay, now let's see what we get on those. Definitely blackberry and currant notes. Getting some underlying black plum. Kind of a candy-esque sort of thing going on the nose. A bit of licorice as well, and then I just seem to get just a hint of kind of a cross between milk chocolate and bittersweet chocolate. Let's see what we get on the palate. Okay, now we're talking the realm that I'm talking about with the consumer. Sort of a very kind of a softer profile on this one. Softer tannins, good fruit. Not over the top though. Again, nicely restrained really. You get that plum note, kind of cherry, plum, currant thing going on, all kind of combined nicely. Everything's nicely integrated. The acidity is balanced. Gives it a little bit of freshness on the finish. The chocolate tones come through, but they're not like heavy chocolate tones, just kind of underneath, kind of like, I like to say it has just a kiss of chocolate, you know, like a peck on the cheek sort of thing. Now you see, this is an 80% wine in my opinion. I've been in retail as long as I am very aware that people, what they like, what they're seeking out. This is a nice, well-made wine that a lot of people would like. It's not over the top fruit. It's not goopy. None of that. Just nicely balanced. Good fruit though. It has the fruit. Smooth tannins. Yeah, solid wine. Long finish. You get a little bit of a char, kind of charred something on the finish. Not smoke, a little bit of char on the back end of this wine, maybe hinting towards tobacco. Anyway, really solid wine. I'm going to go B+ on that wine. I think it's well made, and $16 is a great price. For those of you trying to break into wine, you want to try a Washington State wine that represents an 80% factor, I would go for the Dauntless Red. If you're into old world wines, Bordeaux style, definitely the City Limits. Let's move on to the 2021 Dixie and Bass Red Blend, Columbia Valley, Washington. This rolls in at $15. Now, that's what I sell it for at the store. I think that involves case pricing. I don't know, probably not the normal price. This is a Cab Franc Malbec Merlot, and $15. Kind of cool label. Josh Maloney, I love Josh. He's a great winemaker. He was a winemaker for Milbrandt for quite a while. Then he's moved out and he's branched out, and he's actually making wine for quite a few different labels. So I'm happy for him. He's a very talented winemaker. Color on this is pretty intense, really dark. Almost to the black side, almost to the dark side. Let's see what we get on the nose. Almost kind of a branchy, kind of alfalfa thing going on. Definitely dark cherry, alfalfa, which is not uncommon with Malbec from Washington State. I've ran into that a lot. A bit of chocolate coming through, cherry. I get some spicy elements on the nose as well. Knowing Josh, he used a little bit of oak. And chocolate tones coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Now we're stepping up a little bit here, and it's the least expensive of the bunch. So that's only because I buy it by the case, so I can sell it at that price. But that's not the point. I do sell it at that price. Those interesting kind of bark tones come through, but not a dominant part of the flavor profile. I would say currant, plum. I get a little touch of vanilla, so he's obviously using some oak on this. nice integration of tannin. The tannins are structured, but it has a smoothness to it as well. And there's good balance. And in the finish, you get a little bit of that kind of hit of oak tannins on the backside, but they're not dominant. They're there. And if you had this with food, you wouldn't notice it nearly as much, because I'm not having food here, just drinking them straight up. There's some nice chocolate tones with the currant notes on the finish. The finish lingers for quite a while. And then just a slight hit of vanilla on the back end, but not much, just a little bit. I think it's a winner. I think it's a good food wine. You could drink it solo. The gritty tannins on the backside, that kind of that grip on your gums would benefit from some food for sure. But it is a very good wine, very well made. I'm going to go A- on that one, especially considering the price point. I really like this wine. They're all very solid wines. Morgan Lee, this guy. I always say you should understand what these guys are trying to strive for. What are they looking for? And I think he's a brave man to try and create a really truly Bordeaux style blend from Washington State. There you have it. First episode on Washington State wines. I hope to get a few in before the end of the month. There's 31 days in March, so I have a few extra days, or one extra day anyway. So I hope to get a few episodes in. I love Washington wine. I love the diversity of Washington wine. We're going to look at many different styles of wine, and it should be a fun month. Thanks for taking a little time out of your day. I appreciate your support. For those who are maybe seeing me for the first time, subscribe to my channel. If you feel like you'd like to see what's coming up next, tell your friends about this channel. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.